And you can go online, you can Google the very first footsteps of the earliest man, and it will tell you, it will show you the block. It's a piece of block that they have taken out of the earth that has footsteps, and it dates back almost 1 million years ago. Interesting. Was that the footsteps of Adam? Maybe Noah? Was it the footsteps of Isaac? Was it Abraham's footsteps? Whose footsteps? We can't necessarily know whose footsteps in particular because it doesn't have the name of the person, right? But the fact that they've been there 1 million years ago. And when we talk about biblical times and we talk about biblical days and we talking about history, recorded history, it is showing that humanity, it was not evolution. We were created in the image of God. Our intelligence comes from, think about it this way. In order for a child to become an adult or move through, that child has to be what? Taught how to be what? Human. An ape can only teach an ape how to be what? An ape. Because in the end, what is it? Still an ape. Their intelligence didn't evolve. There was no evolutionary jump and change because there's nothing in our DNA that is linked to the DNA of an ape. We have similar bodies because, man, listen, when God created all of the animals and everything, like, we have similar structures, meaning that we got 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 tongue, 2 nostrils, 2 eyes. We got 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 feet, 10 digits or 5 digits on each limb. Similar, but not the same. And in order for man to have evolved, we had to be taught by what? Another man or another woman. The very first teacher in the home is the woman, is the mother. Mother teaches the child, shows the child how to be whatever sex that child is, learns from the mother, learns everything about their world from what? Their mother. So man was created in the image of God. We do not belong to ourselves. When you go outside and you look outside and you look at the heavens, know that it was not from a explosion that took place in the galaxy. It was the ordination and following the directives of our Father who is in heaven. Look at letter D. What did I say? It does not tell us all that we would like to know, but it does inform us that the answers are found in one person, the sovereign God, or one entity, the sovereign God. All of our answers to our life is found in our sovereign God. Why? Because God is the creator of all things. Look at Roman numeral 3. God is the owner of all things. And what did I say? I said, since God created all things, it follows that everything belongs to him. Everything belongs to him. Look at Psalms 24:1. The earth is the Lord's, and all its fullness, the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. The earth is the Lord's. The earth was God's gift to man. When God created the heaven and the earth, the main focal point here that we understand is that the earth was the focal point of God creating everything. That's our understanding. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those that dwell therein. The earth is the Lord's in all its fullness, the world and those that dwell therein. God owns all of it. And unless we understand, letter B, unless we understand God's absolute ownership and see our relationship to him as our owner, we cannot approach the subject of stewardship in a meaningful way. What are you saying, Brother Pastor? Because you did all this talking. All I want is for us to understand is what? We belong to God. God owns everything. Everything that we have and everything that we are belongs to who? God. And when you talk about stewardship, it's not that we own anything. It is God giving us things. And all God is saying, what I'm giving to you, everything that I give to you, all I'm asking for you to do, I'm not asking for all of it back. God is not saying, I'm going to give you things, and then what I want you to do is in return, give it all back to me. No, what he's simply saying is everything that I just want a portion that shows me the faithfulness and gratefulness you have for what I've given you. And the Bible, which we're going to go into a little bit later, whether it be this lesson or the next lesson, but the Bible gives us an example of the amount that God requires. God is saying, here's the whole, I just want a little piece. And people say, well, what is God going to do with our little piece? It's not about what God does with the little piece. It's about our faithfulness in giving to God. It's not about the amount that we give. It's our faithfulness to giving to God. Why? Because God is always faithful in giving us. And all of us are sitting in here. Any of us, nobody in here can say that there hasn't been a time in which God did not give back to you. Or God did not give to you. Especially if we all claim that we are sinners saved by his grace. We're children of God. Everything that we have belongs to God. Everything that we are belongs to him. There's not a moment in time that we can say that God has not given us. And if you can't think of one instance in which you can say that God has not given, think about this. Every breath that you take is a gift from God. Every beat of your heart is a gift from God. That when it beats and it goes to the next beat, that's a gift. When you breathe in and breathe out, that's a gift. Blinking is a gift. Seeing is a gift. These are things that God gives to us. Not because he's doing it so that we can give back to him, but he gives it to us because that's how generous he is. God continues, and you can testify, you guys can testify on your own of how good God has been to you in giving us things. God doesn't look for us to give things back to him, but what he's doing is seeing how faithful we can be in giving him. God is always faithful in giving us. He wants to show us that we need to be faithful in giving to him. All right? So, all right, let's go. So, let's look at it this way. Roman numeral 4 says, man's dependence on God. We must depend on God. Not independent of God, but we must be dependent on God. Independent means I am not, it's being separate and apart from. Dependent means you can't separate me from. And that's how we should have our relationship with God, that we are not separating ourselves from him, but we're totally depending on him. So man's dependence on God. Watch this. Man ultimately regards everything they have as their own possession, as though anything they may give to God is given as a favor. If I give God my time, my energy, my money, I'm doing God a favor. But that devil lied to you. The Bible says God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. All the cattle on 1,000 hills God owns. What is it that you have that you can offer God? Because even your life, you can't offer your life to God because it belongs to him anyway. Your talents, your gifts, it all belongs to God anyway. So how are we offering to God what is already his? It's not, listen, and I know I may say it a lot, but we got to look at it this way. As talented as you are, as good as you are with your money, as good as you are with your finance, as good, as smart and intellectual, and how strong and sturdy and handsome and pretty and beautiful and wonderful and all of this that people say you are, as all of that, all that and then some, it's not yours. That's not so, oh, I developed that. No, that was God being who God is. A father. What father doesn't want to give their children gifts? All the fathers here, any of y'all don't want to give y'all children gifts? We always do. And mothers, what child of yours you don't want to give a gift to? As parents, we want to give our child everything, give our children everything. Sometimes they don't deserve it, but we still want to give it. Sometimes their behavior is not right. Sometimes they don't listen. Sometimes they don't do what we tell them to do. Sometimes when we give them chores and duties to do, they don't even follow through on it. But we still, it doesn't preclude us from still giving good gifts to our children. God is the same way. There are many things that God, your abilities that you have, everything that you do, even in the church and for the church, God gives you that. It's his. If you can sing, it's God's. If you can pray, that's God. If you can preach, if you can walk, if you can march, if you can direct, if you can clean, if you can manage finance, that's God's. It's just a matter of if we are using what we have to the glory and for the glory of God. All right? So, look at letter B. Just as we must ground our study of stewardship on who and what God is, so we must also base it on who and what man is. So we got to look at who and what God is and look at who and what we are. And what are we? I'm glad you asked. Look at the very next letter. Man is really just a creature, a being created by someone else. The 100th Psalm, verse 3. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Ain't you? It's God. That's what the 100th Psalm. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Oh, yeah. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing and thanksgiving. Know ye that the Lord is good. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. We are his people. Notice he doesn't say he is my God. We are his people. See, God doesn't belong to just me, but I belong to just God. Ain't that something? And think about it from this particular perspective. You know, parents and godparents and stuff, you get children, they're not your children. They're on loan. When God blesses you to be a parent in someone's life, he blesses you with the ability for you to guide, not control. A lot of issues that parents have today is they're too busy trying to control their children rather than guide their children. I don't want nobody to get mad with me and say, oh, Pastor said I'm not. No. Because things are put in place. A parent is there to guide. A parent's job is always to guide, not control. Because once a child get of a certain age, you ain't controlling them. I see all y'all parents looking at me. I see all y'all parents looking at me. You ain't controlling them. You up until a certain age, they'll do exactly what you say. When they get past a certain age, they start questioning. Yeah, they got a different thinking, a different way. You know why? Because they done interacted with some other kids their age. Some other kids say, oh, well, I do this and I do that. And the child said, well, my parents don't let me. Your parents don't what? Your parents don't let you. This is your space. This is your... And those different ideas come into your children's head, and what do children do? They bring it back home and they try to test the theory. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's why you train them up in the way that he should go. Train up a child in the way that he should go, so that when he is old, he will not depart from it. Yeah, and But the only way you can steer them in the right direction is that you got to be able to guide. God does the same thing to us. God, even though we say he holds my hand, he walks with me and talks with me, God is not physically there to hold your hand and walk with you and pull you in the direction he wants you to go. What God does, he gives us his word, his Bible, and we are given instructions. It's up to us to follow. But a lot of times, we ain't following. A lot of times we think we know a better way to get it done. God lays it out in his book, and all you got to do is just like this. People say, how do you bake a cake? And somebody gives them the recipe on how to bake a cake. And they're saying, oh, I'm not going to bake a cake the way this recipe says. I never baked it before, but I know how to bake a cake. How? All you got to do is just follow the recipe. Just follow the book. And if you follow the book, what's going to happen? In the end, you're going to have what? A cake. Or you're going to have something. I don't know what. It ain't going to be no cake. It's going to be something. I don't even know if it's going to be a version, D. It's going to be something. Because here's the thing. If you just follow the recipe, you'll get to the cake. And you can eat cake and love cake and enjoy the cake if you just what? Follow the recipe to make the cake. But where we go wrong is that we think we got a better way of making cake than what somebody has already. Grandma give you a recipe to make cake. Look, Thanksgiving is coming up. And recipes have been passed down from generation to generation. And one thing I've noticed, that if you don't follow the recipe or the instructions, you're not going to get. You ain't going to get the same thing. Y'all laughing at me, but y'all know what I'm talking about. If you don't follow, grandma gives you her recipe, or grandma gave you her recipe for sweet potato pie. You ain't following the recipe, you ain't going to get grandma's sweet potato pie. You won't get something else, but it won't be grandma's. And we do the same thing. God gives us the recipe to follow for us to win, to succeed, to defeat the enemy, to overcome, to be more than conquerors. And rather than us following the recipe, we try to do our own thing. And then we wonder why we in the predicament that we're in. I can tell you it's very simple. You ain't follow the recipe. Everything that we have, everything that we are. Yes, sir. Yes. Creation comes about. Look, there's no super duper way to. We all know how to make a baby. We know how babies are made. It's only now because of technology and things like that they have found another way to make. We doing our own. It ain't going to be the same. It ain't going to be the authentic version. But look at this. No matter what, you still need the seed from this one and the seed from that one. I don't care what you like. In order for us to make another human being, you need the seed from that one and the egg from that one. Even if they make it in a petri dish, they still need the egg from that one and the seed from that one. They call it artificial insemination, but you still need the same thing. And if you create something not by using the egg of this and the seed of that, then you ain't got a human being. You got something else. You got to be careful. So we must understand that man is just a creature, and that we are a being that was created by someone else, God. And man is just really a dependent being. Everything that we have, everything that we know, we depend on something, on God, to give us everything that we need. Everybody prays to God, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. Even the atheist. Atheist says, I don't believe in God, but let something happen. Like, oh, God. Ain't that a prayer? Like, wait a minute, you just said, oh, God. No, I was just saying, it's just a saying. No, it was a prayer. Lord, help me. Oh, my God. That's praying. You're invoking the name of God. You're invoking the name of the Father. Now, you may not have, now understand, they may not have a relationship with him, but they cannot deny him. And notice the Bible says the fool has said in his heart, there's no God. You know why he said in his heart? Because he ain't dumb enough to say it from his mouth. Yeah, and throughout the course of the day, a non-believer is saying something about God to confirm that there is God. Because if you don't believe, you ain't going to call, right? Yeah, of course he's in there. He's in everything and everything and everyone, every aspect, every molecule, every atom, God is in. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't we all get that way? Because I don't know about you. I'm gonna speak just for myself, because I can't. But don't we all get that way? We all say, I ain't gonna be nothing like. I don't want to be nothing like my parents. I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna be better than this. We talk all that jazz, and then what do we do when we start getting older? We start sounding like our parents, saying the same phrases your parents used to say to you. You start saying them to your kids and your grandchildren. And we try our best to be different from our parents, or we try to be a different version of our parents, but then in actuality, we resort back to the same things that, because guess what? If it raised me, I can use it to raise mine. And it's all a circle of life. And that's all. We must understand that we are dependent on God, not independent, dependent. Watch this. Man is a creature and a dependent being. It follows then that man is a steward and not an owner. Man is a steward and not an owner. Since we depend on God, we are a steward. We are a caregiver. We are someone that has been entrusted with something, because we don't own it. We're just watching over it. Look at 1 Chronicles chapter 29. and verse 14. We are a steward, not an owner. What does First Chronicles chapter 29, verse 14 says? It says, but who am I? And who are my people that we should be able to offer so willingly as this? For all things come from who? From you, God, and of your own we have given you. That's the prophet talking, David talking to God. The king is talking to God. He's giving thanks to God, but he says, who am I? I'm the king. I rule over these people, but who am I? And who are my people that we should be able to offer so willingly as this? For all things come from you. It doesn't belong to us. We are just stewards, and God is the owner. Okay, let's look at this particular perspective. When you talk about biblical stewardship, let's look at redemption and stewardship. How does those two things coincide? Redemption and stewardship. Watch this. The Bible tells us that people originally knew of their creation by God and of their responsibility to him. That's found in Romans chapter 1, verses 20 through 21. And what does that say? What does Romans chapter 1, verse 20 and 21 says? For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen and being understood by things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they are without excuse. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were they thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. People originally knew that they were created by something greater than themselves, which we choose to call God, and they understood their responsibility to him, but refused to do it. Letter B, although they could know of his existence and the fact that he is so good, if they would only look around and see his handiwork. However, man prefers to glorify themselves and to enjoy God's creation without acknowledging that it is his. Don't that sound familiar? Yeah. Want to enjoy things as if he did it. That's number 440, whatever he is. Yeah. A serious rude awakening. But look at it. Man prefers to glorify themselves and enjoy God's creation, everything that God created by his hand, not by man. Man didn't do anything. That sounds very familiar, don't it? And hence why when I get a chance and I get up and talk about things that were done and made by black people, because the others get all the credit and they ain't do nothing. If you asked them to recreate it, they couldn't do it. There was everybody thinks that Henry Ford is the father of the automobile. He's not. Did you know that? Did you know? And I'm gonna close on this. Did you know that there was an automobile that was made by black men that was a better running car than the one that Henry Ford made and Ford Motor Company made? Did we know that? But who gets the credit for car? It wasn't that Henry Ford made the best car. He didn't. There was the black men, they made a better car. The only thing Henry Ford gets credit for, or should get credit for, is mass production. Not making a better car, because there was a company out that made better cars, and it was run by 2 black men. They just didn't have the ability to produce it in a faster manner. But Henry Ford was able to do it. And you never hear about those black men, but you always hear about Henry Ford, Ford Motor Company. No, these guys were in 1880 something. I can't think of it. The number escapes me, but 1880s, and they made a better car. No. No. That's not true. That's what you've been told, but that's not the truth. It's not the Wright brothers. They were the first to do the plane, a model, but they wasn't the first to match machinery, no. 1900s. Because remember, the Hindenburg was before 1900. They just found a faster mode of transportation. Remember, the hot air balloon was always there as far as traveling long distances. Hot air balloon. Heat the air inside of a balloon, and it'll carry you where you want to go. Only problem was you couldn't steer. You were at the mercy and the whim of the winds. So if the winds wanted to blow you northward, guess where you were going? North. It wanted to blow you out to sea, guess where you were going? But no, it wasn't that the Wright brothers developed that. What they did was take an idea, a concept, and make it more able to fly through air and space more easily. And how did they do that? They looked at how birds fly. Because that's all a plane is just a bird. That's why they call it a bird. That's why they call airplanes birds. The bird is in the sky. Get that bird up. Get that bird up. Bird moves throughout the sky with no problem, no ease. I mean, with no problem, ease. Just like a fish does the same thing in its natural element, water. Fish can, birds, and everything that we build to go into that area has to mimic either a bird or a what? Fish. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, and they just watch the wings of a bird. When a bird comes in, he comes in, or if he really wants to fly, just the body. And when he want to move and navigate, he holds his wings either upward to give him upward motion or like this so he can come down. Yeah. But just like with an eagle, it soars. It keeps his wings open and let air just get underneath. And an eagle don't have to flap his wings for several minutes, probably an hour or more. Can just glide, depending on how high he is. All right, let's stop there, and then we'll come back next week. We're going to finish this off, and then we'll do lesson number 2 of biblical stewardship, and then we'll be able to move on, okay? So we just got to remember, that no matter what, man wants to take the credit for everything. And it's not us, it's God. And when you take credit from God and make it your own, you're trying to elevate yourself above God. And that's what happened with Satan, Lucifer. That's what he was called, Lucifer, son of the morning. That's what happened to him, or to that particular being. I don't want to say him, that being tried to elevate himself above God, or elevate itself above God. And God is the highest. God the highest. All right? Any questions? All right. Well, to those that are watching via our live stream, we thank and praise God for you being with us on tonight. And if you would like a copy of the lesson for tonight, all we ask that you do is that you send us or put your email in the chat, and we'll send you a copy. We thank and praise God for each and every one of you. We hope that something is said or done to help you to encourage throughout the rest of this week. May God bless you. May heaven smile on you. Be blessed. Be well. Take care. God bless. Yeah, she was.